Environmental racism and justice. Environmental racism refers to the unfair placement of polluting industries and environmental hazards in marginalized areas and communities of color. This excessive amount of exposure to environmental harm and neglect has so many effects and is rooted from a number of unfair systemic regulations. This is an issue that is not talked about enough, but with protest and awareness, a change can be made.
We will not allow one county to become a dump site.
You may ask yourself, what does environmental injustice look like? Well, let's use Flint, Michigan for our first example. The Flint water crisis began in April of 2014 when the city of Flint, Michigan, home to a predominantly Black and low-income population, switched its water source to the Flint River to save money. The water wasn't treated properly, causing lead from old pipes to get into the drinking water. People quickly noticed the dirty, bad-smelling water and reported health issues, but officials ignored their complaints and said the water was safe. Later, tests showed high levels of lead, especially in children. Blood lead levels doubled overall and tripled in some areas. This issue can also result in other problems such as water contamination, soil pollution, aquatic ecosystem destruction, diseases, and increase in plastic waste. Next, we have South Bronx, New York. The South of Bronx has some of the highest childhood asthma rates in the United States. This is largely due to the heavy air pollution caused by thousands of diesel trucks and numerous waste transfer stations concentrated in the area. These sources emit harmful pollutants like nitrogen dioxide, fine particles, and so much more, which significantly impacts respiratory health. And of course, you can imagine how smelly it must be for waste transfer stations to be all over. But this can also cause issues such as air pollution, health conditions, environmental degradation, and biodiversity loss. Next, we have the Navajo Nation. The Navajo Nation has endured long-term health and environmental damage from the uranium mining, which began during the Cold War era when the U.S. government sought out uranium for nuclear weapons. From the 1940s through the 1980s, over 30 million tons of uranium ore was extracted from Navajo lands, often without informing the workers of the health risk. As a result, many workers and their families were exposed to radioactive dust and contaminated water, leading to high rates of cancer and kidney disease. Today, more than 500 abandoned uranium mines still contaminate the land and water, but still being neglected, causing things such as groundwater and soil contamination, airborne radioactive dust, and ecological disruption. Now, we should get in the root of this issue. Redlining was a discriminatory housing policy from the 1930s that labeled Black, Latino, and immigrant neighborhoods as high risk, denying them loans and investments while supporting white areas. This caused long-term disinvestments and led to polluting highways, factories, and waste sites being placed in redline communities. As a result, residents face higher pollution and health issues. Today, many of these areas still suffer from environmental injustice and lack of resources. Political power imbalance has caused marginalized communities to have less political power, making it easier for polluting industries and harmful projects to be placed in their neighborhoods. With limited resources to fight back, they face more environmental hazards and gentrification, but these issues continue to be discussed till this day.
To talk about climate change and environmental justice in the context of each of your experiences and your leadership to give voice to and shed light on and empower and fight for the priorities and the solutions of communities of color and tribal nations. And, you know, around the world, we are all sort of seeing the consequences of climate changes, both through lived experiences, but also anytime we turn on the television. And we know that communities of color and tribal nations are often hit first and worst.
Environmental deregulation refers to when the government weakens environmental protection against industry development. Without strong regulations, industries can more easily place polluting factories and facilities near marginalized communities, which often lack the power or the resources to oppose them. Weaker rules also means less enforcement of clean air and water standards, leading to great exposure of toxins in already vulnerable areas. This allows environmental hazards to increase in the communities of colored and low-income neighborhoods. Now, what can we do to improve on this issue? Stronger environmental regulations, environmental justice legislation, equitable zoning and planning, increased representation, and transparency in data collection. The change starts with us, so let's help make it. Thank you.